It's very cool. It's very unique. It's not the Florida most people think of.
This is the oldest street in America.
One of the original houses. Are you guys in the Navy?
He wanted St. Augustine to be a resort town for the wealthy.
Thomas Edison actually wanted that.
What a wild place, St. Augustine.
That's apparently Henry Flagler's face.
That's when Spanish explorers came here.
It was more violent than Birmingham. It was more violent than Selma. A lot of New York license plates. Wisconsin. We do have a lot of pirate history out here. It's not what people think.
That's history, that's life. That's how the world works.
That's a cool combo, being able to live around that old architecture and then have this.
This is my place. I don't ever want to leave.
Caroline, where are we right now?
We're at the Castillo de San Marcos.
Okay.
So built in 1672. It's made entirely out of coquina, mollusks, shells. We had huge quantities of it over on the island over there. So it's very, very durable and it's pretty soft. So what makes the fort so unique, in the event of an attack, it could actually absorb cannons.
And so St. Augustine, it's America's oldest continuously inhabited European settlement.
Yeah, in the continental United States, yes.
Pre-Jamestown.
Correct,
Pre all
yeah.
that.
St. Augustine was established in 1565, so this definitely predates British colonization. The Spanish and the Portuguese, they were the first to really be colonizing over in the Americas. So the British are gonna come around eventually, the French will come, the Dutch will come, but I mean, Spain and Portugal, especially Spain, had almost like a monopoly on territory over here.
And so it was going to an indigenous native lands and conquering the territory and getting the riches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Gold, glory, and God, those were the three motivators for exploration, right? They want to get rich, they want to get famous. A really big mission as well, though, was to spread Christianity. For the Spanish, that was Catholicism. And if you actually look over there, where that big cross is, that is the site of the mission Nombre de Dios. And that is actually considered the oldest still existing Spanish mission.
And so we're gonna go into St. Augustine in a little bit, walk through these streets. It's tourist town now these days.
Oh, for sure.
But it definitely doesn't feel like the rest of Florida. And when people think of Florida, you know, it's usually retirees, golf.
Yeah.
But they're not thinking European, older than anything else in the country, Western history-wise.
Right.
You know, that's usually not what comes to mind. So you grew up nearby in Jacksonville, but you've been living in St. Augustine for quite some time, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, and you're a history teacher here.
Yes, I am.
So this is your wheelhouse here. St. Augustine is like, it's perfect for you, that collaboration, that connection. Okay, I see what you're saying here. So these are shells.
Yep.
So what was it, when cannonballs came in, they could
just
absorb and not crack it.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm sure they've restored it a few times over the years, but it's in great shape.
Yeah, and what's also cool is the moat. So sometimes whenever, you know, hurricanes will come through.
Yep.
So St. Augustine downtown will absolutely get flooded, but the moat obviously will fill up with water.
This moat right here.
Yep, right here. But what's funny is that this was not intended to be a water moat.
Okay.
This was actually used for holding livestock. Fort was definitely sieged and attacked multiple times. They do reenactments of that a lot.
Okay.
And then actually Sir Francis Drake, really, really famous English privateer.
Yep.
One of Elizabeth I's like right-hand men. He actually like set the entire city on fire. And then eventually 1763, end of the French and Indian War, Spain loses a lot of its territories. Spain wanted to have control over Havana, Cuba, right? Because Havana was so profitable with sugar plantations and whatnot, that in exchange for Havana, the Spanish were like, okay, you guys can have Florida. La Florida.
La Florida means the flower, right?
Correct.
Discovered by?
Ponce de Leon, 1513.
Purchased 1821 by the United States.
Yeah, so that's when Florida was ceded by the Union.
And so, why is it named St. Augustine?
After San Agustin of Hippo. Obviously huge Catholic presence here.
Governor's house, what's the story here?
This has roots from late 16th century. So this is the governor's house, whether, you know, St. Augustine is under Spanish leadership or British leadership.
Beautiful. See, this is what It's not Europe, obviously, here. Florida with the architecture. Every place has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'll take this weather any day over Northern Europe, right? Especially this time of year.
Oh my gosh.
You know, this is February.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's good to get like a little dose of, you know, the old marble floors.
Yeah.
The beautiful rafters above. And then you get this southern beauty of that.
Oh yeah.
Spanish moss. I wonder why they call it Spanish moss.
I don't know.
That's because I don't think this exists in Spain. It's probably because Spanish came here and they said, hey, this is our moss.
Could be.
Right?
That might be like a good Google question.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll get a lot of this really cool Gilded Age architecture. So this was originally the Ponce de Leon Hotel, built by Henry Flagler, who was really close partners with John D. Rockefeller.
Right.
So like railroad, oil tycoon. When Flagler came down here in the late 19th century, he wanted St. Augustine to be sort of a resort town for this like rising, wealthy middle class.
Okay, from the Northeast.
Right. Post-industrial revolution, we all of a sudden now have a bunch of these like self-made people that, you know, they're business owners, factory owners.
Okay, so we're seeing a different iteration of its history. Obviously, the fort was the oldest Western marker, at least. And then this is basically 120, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, late 19th century, 1880s, 1890s.
Okay.
And then in the 1960s, they converted it, they turned it into a college.
Is it still a college?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a liberal arts school, it's a private school. It's beautiful.
Oh, it is. Look at this. So peaceful here, you know? Can we go in?
Yeah.
These old doors. I just love all the detail, you know, the shell in the door handle.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Okay, so this is all Henry Flagler? It was the East Florida Railway he brought down? Is that the title of it?
Yeah.
Okay. That pushed the development all the way down to Miami eventually.
Right, yeah.
But this developed first in its modern iteration because it was closer to the Northeast.
Right, yeah.
And then kept going south and south and south.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we walk through? Is that cool?
Yeah, I think they have closed off the parts that you can't walk through.
All right, you can't be on camera because you work here, but I got you. Well, I appreciate you showing this.
The dining hall for the Flagler students here.
Oh, cool. Have you been in here?
No, I haven't.
This is special access, yeah. What a dining hall. Ooh.
You push the button and your own butler servants come to you and take you to the table.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison actually wired that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, this was one of the first buildings in the country with electricity, right?
Before the White House.
What year? Do you know?
1886, 7.
That is a unique college dining experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got any other questions? Right?
Tell us what you love about St. Augustine.
I was up in Atlanta, retired, and my wife just wanted to be here.
Okay,
And,
happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, so actually we had riots a few years back, and I lived close to where it was happening. And
Riots in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we bought a house here, I retired.
Do you love it?
Yeah, it's much better. I miss the city, but you come over that bridge, there's nothing more beautiful.
Yeah, it's a special feeling here, I'd say. Yeah, I guess it gets cold enough here. You need a fireplace, huh? Okay, what's going on here?
It's right there.
What is that?
That's apparently Henry Flagler's face. So they
That's
say.
his face.
Yeah.
Who says that?
Locals.
You believe, Bob? Do you think that's his face?
Yeah. Didn't you hear the story?
No.
Oh.
What's the story? All right. Bob, you mind if I record this? This is fascinating stuff.
He's a little cranky, but he's real nice.
No, I don't mind. Over here, you have steps that go up to the right is Henry Flagler's private dining room.
Okay.
Those windows there, they're not windows, they're actually doors. Henry Flagler would go up here every day to go to dinner. All his life he was afraid of slipping and falling. So he made leather steps. On the side of it, they're leather.
Oh, okay.
That brown is leather. You know how he died?
How?
He slipped and fell down a flight of steps in his house in Palm Beach, broke his hip. 2 weeks later, he passed away. And as they brought his body back to St. Augustine for viewing, and as the funeral procession's coming down King Street, it started to rain. Well, everybody knows when it rains in Florida, it rains hard and heavy. Pallbearers are soaking wet, the casket's soaking wet. As soon as they walk in, they slip and they drop the casket. Corner of the casket hits the floor, they pick it up and continue on. They tell the maintenance man, we think we broke the tile. Maintenance man goes over, scrubs his marks, can't get the mark out, then he realizes that it's Henry Flagler's facial expression.
That one tile we
That
looked at.
one tile, yeah.
Interesting. What's the moral of that story?
Don't be afraid of falling down the steps all your life.
So you were saying Flagler had a little mini dog, and that's the dog.
That's the dog.
That's a little tougher to see, to be honest. You seeing a dog out of that?
I'm not. Oh yeah, I do, a
come
little
around.
bit.
Look at that way.
I guess its ears are going back and its little face.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I see the dog.
There's so much character here. Like the locals and stuff.
Bob's fired up.
Oh yeah.
Bob was put on this planet to tell that dog story and that Henry Flagler
Oh yeah.
story, right?
He's been waiting weeks for somebody to ask.
Flagler College was your dream school?
Oh yeah.
What happened to the dream?
It's a private school, and I couldn't use grants or, anything like that to attend. So I went to St. John's River State College for a couple years, got my AA, and then I went to UNF.
Okay, off topic of the St. Augustine topic, but sort of on topic because you live and work here.
Yeah.
Teaching these days, you're a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Are the kids into history?
Depends.
What's your experience?
You have to really engage them. Like, you have to make it interesting. You have to use the real life examples, real world examples. You got to really play up the drama, because that's all history is. It's drama.
It's drama.
Yeah.
What's the drama here?
So this is the Alcazar Hotel. So this is now the Lightner Museum. This was kind of along with the Ponce de Leon Hotel. This was also supposed to be kind of like a luxury resort. They've since converted it to a museum, but one of the really cool parts about it is that they built the largest indoor swimming pool in the country. And this was the first indoor swimming pool in Florida. And now they've converted it into, it's used as like a wedding venue a lot. And there's like a cafe in what is now the swimming pool. But it is really, really cool.
Love these archways and these gates.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful courtyard. Oh,
Yeah,
this
a
is
lot
nice.
of weddings, a lot of wedding photos taken on this bridge right here.
Okay, yeah. Oh, look at these fish. That guy's huge. Wow. What's that, like 3 feet? 2.5 feet?
Yeah.
That is massive. That thing's probably like 30 pounds. Wow. That's interesting. 1890s. The luggage is because they stayed from November to
The
April.
luggage.
So they would all
Oh,
take
yeah.
off in the summers.
If the people were coming from the Northeast, that was generally what their season was, November to April, and they paid $9,000 apiece in 1888.
9,000 a piece to come here? Wow.
These were the people who would summer in Newport, Rhode Island, and then they came down here, and this is where they would winter.
Okay, so that's not really a new trend. I mean, that's been going on forever. Newport to Palm Beach or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And this is just the Gilded Age, good times, late night dancing.
They periodically would drain the pool, which is, you see it in the picture behind me.
Okay.
So at the time, this was the world's largest indoor swimming pool. And now, instead of a swimming pool, it's a restaurant.
Oh, it lost a bit of its mojo. No offense.
Well, but this entire building was the entertainment complex for the folks that would come down here for the season. And so they could watch acrobats swim in the pool. They could learn how to swim. They could get permits to learn how to ride bicycles, because that was not a thing. Really, people didn't know how to ride bicycles, and so they had to have a license to do that.
You needed a license to ride bicycles.
And then on the second level here, you would have all of the medical cures of the time. There was a spa up there, there was a steam bath. A doctor who was on site would prescribe hydrotherapy or electrotherapy to you. And so that was something that you could get. And then on the third floor, you would have the ballroom. So at night there were concerts, there was dancing, there were special events. They would have people singing or playing instruments from these alcoves. Also to entertain you. You had to do something with these people while they were here.
It makes me think of like Below Deck.
Yeah.
Like just like a bunch of rich people who just are bored and just need like ridiculous, like they need attention like all the time.
Yes. And as it says over here, when the staff retired to their humble living quarters, where they stayed was on the 4th floor above the ballroom, above the pool. And so people were still partying and things like that, but their rooms were these little rooms in the galley above that central area.
That's beautiful. So it's so crazy down there, the woman was saying you needed a license to ride a bicycle in those days.
Crazy.
When did that stop?
I think when people probably started to get some common sense.
Yeah, Florida driving tests, my wife took one last year. It was literally show up with a heartbeat.
Yes.
You know, and like know where the gas and the brake is, okay, you're passed. I mean, a little more than that, but it was like nothing, no parallel parking, anything. And to think back in the day in Florida, there was actually a license for bicycles.
So if you go to that back parking lot, it's now a ticketed building. It's actually a whole space used for bicycles so that you could actually get your license while you visited St. Augustine from up north. That was interesting.
And look at these, they're so cool with the lights. I'm a bike geek, that's why I'm finding this interesting. I love cycling. Oh, there you go, nice. You got your dream job here.
So I mean, you can see like this is obviously a very cool like wedding venue now.
Oh yeah.
Super cool.
You said you were gonna do your wedding here and
we
they
thought
wanted
about it.
45,000, right?
Something like that. It was a lot. I was like, oh.
Okay, so this is the old pool room. Still is impressive. Are you guys in the Navy?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Can I record you recording?
Of course.
Where are you guys from?
Ecuadorian Navy.
Ecuadorian Navy?
Yes. Today we are here because we signed an agreement with the U.S. Navy. We're a partnership. We're fighting against all threats like narco-traffic, fishing, illegal fishing. That's up in the South Pacific.
Are you happy about that?
Of course, I'm here by the U.S. Navy. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Interesting. Both of our countries, the Spanish controlled these territories,
Oh, yes.
just like Ecuador.
That's history. That's life. That's how the world works.
Well, congratulations, guys.
To you, thank you.
We're
very
happy to
much.
be connected with Ecuador.
Okay, thank you to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Have a
See you.
good trip. Hasta luego.
So when we talk about the age of exploration, it was the Portuguese who were, they were really the first to kick off the whole age of exploration, and then Spain, followed suit. And when it came to colonizing in the Americas, they signed a treaty in 1494, Treaty of Tordesillas, which basically drew an imaginary line in the middle of the Americas, because Spain and Portugal are like bickering over who gets to be, claiming what, who gets to have control over what. So the Pope steps in, draws this imaginary line, and says, okay, everything to the west of this line is going to go to the Spanish, and then everything to the east goes to the Portuguese. And so that's why the Spanish had control over so much of the Americas, especially in like South America.
Okay.
Whereas the Portuguese, pretty much their only colonial holdings were what's now Brazil.
Yeah.
So that's why like they speak Portuguese in Brazil.
Yep.
And the rest of South America, they're speaking Spanish. There's still that big cultural influence there. And then the British and the French step in and they just totally ignore this treaty.
Right. Oh, this is a cool street. What's this?
Oh, this is a Ville Street. This is the oldest street in America.
Oh, really?
I knew I meant to take you down here. But yeah, this is the oldest street in the U.S. We have the Spanish military hospitals over here.
Okay, so this probably is burnt down a few times.
Oh yeah.
One of the original houses.
Late 1700s, 1786. Okay, so Minorcans. And this
Minorcans?
Yeah, the
From
Minorcan.
Minorca?
Yeah. Well, okay, so there were like 1,500 Minorcans. They weren't just Minorcans, though. They were also, they were like Greek, Spanish.
Okay.
These were all indentured servants that came over to work on the plantation of Andrew Turnbull, who was like a physician. This was in New Smyrna. So he had a big plantation down in New Smyrna, and then there was this mass exodus. So the Jimenez Fascio house right here actually has Minorcan connections to it. So
sorry, I have a lot of holes in my history.
No, you're good.
But the Minorcans were the slaves for the Spanish.
They weren't slaves.
Or the cheap labor.
So they were indentured servants.
Okay.
And so that's usually contractual. So indentured servants were typically Europeans. Like these were people who maybe they were in and out of jail, or they had a lot of debts, or stuff like that.
Okay.
And so basically they had the option of signing these contracts, 4 to 7 year long contracts, where they could go and work in the colony.
Okay, so to get out of their debt or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, sign a contract, do your work over here. You're in the sugar plantations.
Right, or cotton, etc., rice, indigo. So Andrew Turnbull had like 1,500 indentured servants. There was like a mass exodus of like 500 to 600 Minorcans that left New Smyrna and came up here to St. Augustine and settled down here. I mean, there are some like 12th generation Floridians or like something crazy like that. But yeah, that house back there was the Jimenez Fascio house. So the guy who owned the house, his wife's father, so his father-in-law led this mass exodus from New Smyrna to St. Augustine. And so, yeah, there's big Minorcan presence here.
That's a plate right there, Seminoles.
Oh, yeah.
That's a sports team. But the Seminoles, for those that don't know, in the native world are highly respected.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm actually, we can go this way, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be doing a video on the Seminole tribe in South Florida.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pumped because that's not an easy story to get. In the Third Seminole War, the cavalry just gave up because they just didn't want to hack it out in the Everglades with alligators and swamp conditions.
Right.
And so the Seminoles have done very well financially. I'm going to learn way more. They own the Hard Rock Casino brand.
Yeah.
Not just the one in Fort Lauderdale, but the whole brand.
Yeah.
I believe there are only roughly 4,000 of them. And I just love that, you're driving around Florida, you see these Seminoles. They're really like the sports teams, I don't know, but there's a huge following.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the native world, when I'm with the Crow or the Lakota, Hooper, anyone, they're like, oh, the Seminoles. They're like, wow, they look up to them like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Second Seminole War, actually, there were a lot of Seminoles. They were actually imprisoned at the Castillo.
Really? So where we started today.
Yeah, you can barely see it.
Yeah, barely see it in the distance. There were 3 Seminole Wars. In the second one, they're held there.
They were imprisoned there, and one of the famous ones was the chief Osceola. He was imprisoned there. Everything is connected. This is the oldest house in Florida. Now, what's really interesting about this, you can actually see architecture from 3 distinct periods. So the first floor, this is made out of coquina.
Okay.
That is from the first Spanish period. Second Spanish period, the house was occupied by a British gentleman. He added on the second floor with the wooden framing. And the loggia, which is, I want to say it's over here. So the loggia was really beneficial in Florida, before there was AC and stuff like that, because it kind of allowed for there to be an airflow from like the southeasterly winds.
Oh, yeah.
So people could open their windows and then they would get this nice, like you can feel, like even now you can feel like a breeze. So that's kind of how they would keep some kind of circulation in these houses. But yeah, so that's the Gonzalez
You
Alvarez
want to try to
house.
get in there?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can try to get in.
This is cool.
Yeah.
There's a couple samples on the windowsill. If you haven't heard about coquina yet, you will, because it makes up a major part of the infrastructure in this town.
And then British influence.
Yeah. And then during the second Spanish period, it was once again owned by a Spaniard.
So crazy. You think you got it, right? You're the British. You're like, okay, we defeated the Spanish. We're good now. This is ours. But you got to be on your toes constantly because they mount a stronger attack and it goes back to them.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, so when the Spanish get Florida back, that is 1783. That is perfectly timing with the end of the American Revolution. So because the Spanish were helping the American cause, the American fight, the Spanish get Florida back.
This is a cool street. It's a bit rustic and run down. I mean, this is like, well, that's not super old, I don't think.
Yeah, there's some
but it's cool.
Military barracks somewhere over here.
But these nice little parks.
Oh yeah. We're starting to enter Lincolnville. So Lincolnville was founded after the Civil War as like a Black community and settlement.
We're coming into it right now, right?
Correct, yes. Okay. Yep. Cordova. St. Augustine was getting ready to celebrate the quadricentennial. There's not really any other cities in the US that can celebrate being around for 400 years. So it was a big deal. This is also 1960s. There was some discontent over there not really being any Black representation for the quadricentennial. Martin Luther King Jr. and his organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, came down here. One of the things that a lot of these activists were doing were these swim-ins or wade-ins, where they were attempting to desegregate pools. At the Monson Motor Lodge, what is now the Hilton, there was this photograph captured. And I would like to try to show you.
Sorry to interrupt one second. Good. You were talking off camera, gentrification, like these old homes getting changed over right now.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to let the viewers see that as we walk into this.
Yeah.
It's really changing quite, I can see down here, it's quite different. Okay, so wade-in.
Yeah, there was a wade-in at the Monson Motor Lodge, which was a white hotel. Basically, these wade-ins were an attempt to desegregate pools. So there were a group of Black people who were in the pool at the Monson Motor Lodge. The owner came by and poured acid in the pool.
Oh, Jesus.
It was photographed. This photograph ended up being talked about in Congress. When they were getting ready to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964, this photograph was being brought up. It just really spoke to people, I think. And it really did kind of help propel that legislation being passed to help desegregate.
And for those that don't know, a big part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was you can't hire or fire off gender, skin color, religion, right? Isn't that the basic premise of it?
Yes. This is the Lincolnville Museum and Cultural Center. This is formerly Excelsior High School, the first Black public school in Florida. Civil rights movement down here, it was more violent than Birmingham. It was more violent than Selma. They say that medical expenses were actually higher than like legal fees.
Okay, so this is interesting. You see some of these cute little places, and gentrification, in a way, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if it's a neighborhood that's falling apart, the money comes in, the energy, the oxygen, the resources, but then it will create also very high prices. And I've heard people in neighborhoods like this, I don't see one out and about today, but depending on who you talk to is what you're gonna hear, right? There's no consensus on that. A lot of locals will be like, it's great, my neighborhood was falling apart and now things look nice and the neighbor's lawn looks good. And then others are like, I don't like change. And if they're renting and the rent bounces way up, they're like, this sucks for me, not a fan.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting example of this. I mean, neighborhoods are always changing, right?
Right.
But this one is really, you know, touching on this old Florida stuff here. You know, they're even taking these small places and redoing them, and you can see the for sale signs. And look at that.
This is super modern.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
What a wild place, St. Augustine.
Right?
You've seen a lot of this over recent years, right? Northeast?
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. A lot of New York license plates. Wisconsin?
I mean, that is the story of America, right? That pioneering mentality of move where the opportunity is, move to the new life,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, you can hear, like, there's just no chaos. It's calm. I love Jacksonville. Like, I'm a huge Jags fan. That's my NFL team. I will always have a special place in my heart for Jacksonville, but I love it down here. It's so relaxing, so laid back.
And the civil rights history is, well, in the St. Augustine timeline, it just happened.
Oh, yeah.
But for most of America, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have like a big tour of this here.
Yep. So yeah, that's the Freedom Trail. So that was the march that they did from Lincolnville all the way up to the Plaza de la Constitucion, like kind of in that town center area.
Okay. What a neighborhood. So St. Augustine is not cheap, I'm gathering.
No, it's not. If you want a decent house in the historic district, it's going to be like $1 million.
So like this is $1 million?
Well, now this is Lincolnville. So if I had to guess, maybe 600s.
Look at this thing, that's cute.
That is cute.
Detailed, nice ornate paint job. It is one of those cool walkable neighborhoods where your kids get out of school and they can walk home easily.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, safe street. What's the story with the lions here?
You know, they are actually replicas of a pair of lions in Florence, Italy. It has the drawbridge on it, so traffic notoriously gets backed up right up here.
Have you seen that boat?
Oh, yeah.
It's like an old replica.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that might be the Black Raven ship, or...
Yeah,
no,
it's got a pirate's flag on the back.
Yeah, they do like little tours and stuff like that. We do have a lot of pirate history out here.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. It's not what people think of, like, you know, goofy cartoon pirates and stuff like that.
Okay, what's the pirate history here? What would be an example?
I mean, it's more realistic, and a lot of it goes back to the Spanish-British rivalries of, hey, I'm a sailor on this British ship, and I see a Spanish ship up there, I'm gonna raid and plunder. That's pretty much how it goes.
So who are better in the seas?
I would say absolutely the British. I mean, they always had the most superior navy, you know, in the world. And they were also notorious for using like fire ships. Like they would basically get their ships really close to Spanish ships, and like there would be nothing on the ships except for maybe like flammable materials, and they would just set them on fire and like shove them into Spanish ships.
Okay, so we're over the bridge. This is another neighborhood in St. Augustine.
Yeah, this is Davis Shores. So this was all kind of developed in the 1920s during the Florida land boom, when all these people started trying to move down here. But then Great Depression hits, and this area was impacted pretty negatively, and it really wasn't until like post World War II this area started to grow and develop again, just because of overall, you know, economic prosperity nationwide.
Okay, so these homes over here are pretty expensive, I'm gathering.
Oh yeah.
This is prime real estate.
They do flood out here pretty bad. I mean, you can see they're pretty close to the water table here.
Sure.
But I love it out here. It's beautiful. And you can see, like, a lot of these houses, you can see where some of them are just built a little bit up.
Yeah, like
elevated.
that one is...
You can tell the newer ones are.
That guy just went straight up. So the lots are narrow and they just have to build up, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's just different building codes now because of rising sea levels.
How you doing, sir? Good, how you doing? Doing well. Yeah, this is sweet out here.
Yeah, I love it out here. It's so pretty.
When was the last hurricane here?
Last big one was a couple of years ago. Irma. Matthew had a really big impact on the city. I mean, it's just something you have to think about when you're buying a home. So what's crazy is, like, a lot of the people that are buying houses out here are from up north, and they're a little bit ignorant of that. They'll also kind of market some of the homes out here as being, you know, oh, it's new construction. And it's like, well, then you find out why it's new construction.
Oh, yeah, right.
So that's kind of the issue with it. But I love this neighborhood. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and their views are unbelievable out here. You can't see past these homes, but we're looking right back on the old city.
Yeah.
Across the water. So when you live in St. Augustine, you can live in a totally different world. You can live in that old sort of European feeling stuff.
Yeah.
You can live in your like beautiful American suburb type stuff. Mm-hmm. Or out at the beach where we're going.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's a cool combo, being able to live around that old architecture and then have this.
Yeah, I really
and
feel
this be
like
February.
Oh, I know. I feel like I do get the best of both worlds. Like I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
You're in your place?
This is my place. Like I don't ever want to leave.
What are we, 15 minutes from St. Augustine, downtown?
Yeah, about a 10-minute drive, yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Well, thank you for bringing us along, Caroline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
And thanks, guys, for coming on this journey. It's part of a greater Florida series, going to all corners of the state, trying to show different perspectives of what this place is like. Until the next one.